It's a concept that is crucial to chemistry and physics. It helps explain why processes go one way to another. Have you ever wondered why ice melts?
Why iron rusts in moist air?
And why sugar dissolves in a cup of coffee? It's notoriously difficult to wrap our heads around.
So let's find out as we go throughout our lesson.
I am Gaya Emari
And I
Enero
am Romel Gonzalez
for
Spontaneous Learning.
When we say spontaneous, there were a lot of questions that comes to our mind. But basically, spontaneous means it happens instantly. This is a convenient definition, but unfortunately misleading.
To further explain, a spontaneous process is a chemical or physical change that occurs by itself. These processes occur without requiring an outside force in ordinary conditions, like atmospheric pressure or 25 degrees Celsius, and continue until the equilibrium is reached.
There are some spontaneous processes that can occur in real life. For example, a rock rolling downhill with no intervention by external force. Next is our fruit ripened and turned into yellow on its own. Third one is ice that melts. And fourth one is sugar dissolves in coffee in a cup of coffee. And fifth and lastly, heat from a cup of coffee turns from hotter to colder.
So how can we determine if a reaction is spontaneous? A spontaneous process is one that takes place without energy from an external source. For a chemical reaction to be spontaneous, it should proceed from left to right without an input of energy.
Example of chemical reaction is combustion of methane to form of carbon dioxide and water that release heat by negative 890.4 kilojoules per mole. This chemical reaction release heat, therefore it is exothermic. Thus, exothermic reactions that release heat are spontaneous according to change in enthalpy. And how about endothermic reactions? When you reverse the process of combustion of methane, it will now become an endothermic reaction. In reverse, CO2 and H2O to produce oxygen and methane gas requires a lot of energy, which is 89 kilojoules per mole. You have to continuously push the reaction like adding catalyst for the reaction to occur. This is similar to a rock rolled up in a hill. You have to exert force for the process to happen. Thus, endothermic reaction that absorbs heat are non-spontaneous according to enthalpy.
However, enthalpy is not only a factor to consider in predicting spontaneity. Endothermic will become spontaneous when we will consider another thermodynamic quantity known as entropy or delta S. Lastly, spontaneity depends on the combination of entropy and enthalpy. Gives free energy with the formula delta G is equal to delta H or enthalpy minus temperature times delta S or entropy.
To summarize, a spontaneous process is a chemical or physical change that occurs by itself. Here are examples of spontaneous processes. A rock rolled downhill. Fruit ripened and became yellow. Ice that melts. Iron object rust in moist air. Sugar dissolves in a cup of coffee. And lastly, heat flows from hotter to colder.
Spontaneity depends on change in enthalpy, where exothermic reactions that release heat are spontaneous according to change in enthalpy, and endothermic reactions that absorb heat are non-spontaneous according to enthalpy. Next is entropy, and lastly, the combination of enthalpy and entropy gives free energy.